Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we are going with Gandalf with mispronouncing Dunedain, and here is Gandalf the Grey, and I'm going to discuss some of his names today. So we will begin by smashing this Mordor army of pitiful resistance, because we can. Yeah, run over there. Okay, so Gandalf is his common name, and this was what he was widely known in, well, in the north of Middle-earth. However, north is a subjective term rather than a geographical sense, really, in that it was his name all the way from the Gulf of Lune. Hopefully I've got a map up to show this. From the Gulf of Lune all the way down, all the way to the east, where it meets the River Carnin, or the Redwater, all the way to its junction with the Kelduin, the River Running, and then south to the River Nirnen, the Sea of Nirnen, or the Nirn. No, Nirn is... never mind. Nirnen is Nirn water, I believe. So that is a lake, yes. And then to the southern confines of Gondor. So north really is a very large area indeed, and Gandalf was known as Gandalf in this area. However, he did also then have... oh, there goes the general. He did have cavalry, so overpowered. He did have other names, so the elves widely knew him as Mithrandir, which is Sindarin, which, well, if we look into the different words within, myth, if you're interested, myth means grey, Ran means wander or to stray, similar to how in the moon, well, the moon is named Rana, which, well, similar to how it does in our universe. It wanders, it has its own cycle separate from the sun, hence it has that name. And so with all these added together, you get something alike to grey wanderer, pilgrim, or messenger. And not only did the elves know him as this, also members of rank with that are descendants of Numenor, so people like Denethor and Faramir, and of course Aragorn, they all call him, well, they don't all, Aragorn not so, but they call him Mithrandir anyway, as a sign of their heritage. And then other races, then we have the dwarves that call him Darkun, and this simply means staff man. Very, at least linguistically, very primitive peoples. And then moving on, then we have Greymantle, and this is an archaic word or name that the people of Rohan called him, and also people of Gondor, they also called him Greymantle in the early years. And this archaism isn't really seen anymore, as in Lord of the Rings, Éomer calls Gandalf Greyheim, and this Greyheim is from Greymantle, just like a modernization of that. Okay, so now to the real juicy and more speculative part of the video, is where we have Incarnus or Incarnush. There were two separate pronunciations in Unfinished Tales for this, and this is a name that was given in the south. Now the south could mean Harad, which is the Southlands. In fact, I can just show you on here, Southlands, but and it means alien. There is no, it isn't of Quenya Sindarian Westron. It's the Southerners' own language that has been incorporated into like an Elvish script. However, in Unfinished Tales, then Tolkien does say that in his opinion, this is like a Quenya name in early Gondor. So Gandalf came in the early part of the Third Age, and so if you look back to about 2,000 years ago, then Quenya was still used in Gondor as like a language of like law masters. So if I can show you here or down here, so this is where the Canon would be. You see here on the map, where all the way over here, Erebor. Sorry, Erebor's there, and then this is the Kelduin. So this is like the north. There's the boundary, and then all the way also to the Nirn, which is, by the way, this is not a completely correct map, but it's pretty darn close. And then this is the Poros and the Harnan, and this is basically Herondor or Southern Gondor, and this is like you wouldn't go any further than this if your name was Gandalf. And okay, so where was I? So J.R.R. Tolkien thought that this was only Incarnus may have been a name for him in southern Middle-earth or in Gondor primarily. And also interesting to note, as Quenya is like the Latin of Middle-earth, in Latin this is kind of like grey hair, which of course Gandalf does have over here, or Gandalf the Horseman as he is. And then of course there is Gandalf the White, who comes back and is reincarnated by Eru Ilúvatar after falling in the Battle of the Peak against the Balrog Durin's-Bane. And then finally I will talk about his name Olorin, which is his high elven name that he had in Valinor. And this does come up in Lord of the Rings actually twice, not once but twice, when Faramir is talking with the hobbits Frodo and Sam in Henneth Annûn, or Henneth Annûn, and he tells how he was told by Gandalf that this was one of his names back in his youth. And then also Gandalf tells the hobbits at Aragorn's coronation in Minas Tirith also of how he was called Olorin back in the day. So that kind of goes over all his names. I kind of jibber-jabbered on for quite a while there. Hopefully this was interesting, entertaining. If you want to know more, then maybe I can go more in depth somewhere else. I try and keep these short, but for now, this has been Gone with Gandalf, and good day!